think we're live.
Is that it? Oh, great. Hi, Norm.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, man. How are you?
Good. So I guess, yeah, let's introduce ourselves.
Yeah, you go first.
So I'm Norm Lee. I'm cinematographer now based in New York, and I am Canadian.
Good stuff. I'm Bobby Shore. I'm also Canadian. Born and raised in Montreal. Lived in LA for a little while and stayed there probably a little bit longer than I should have. And now I'm in Toronto and very, very happy here. And actually super stoked to be talking to Norm about work and all the weird arty type shit we've gotten ourselves into and commercial stuff. So it should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically this is exciting because talking about the meaning behind projects and.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think also, I think just kind of acknowledging what kind of a weird time we're in right now. I think with everything going on, I think has a pretty big impact on how you even define the word meaningful now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that in terms of just maybe where there's some similarities between us, just in terms of like, being, like I don't own anything, I don't have a family to support. So the idea of how you can attach your, I guess, kind of like just maybe some of your own emotional stuff to meaningful work is very different because, you can do a commercial and then make a bit of money and then put it all towards, shooting an art film with a friend or something. It's kind of obviously super low budget, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I'd just be super curious to kind of like hear about, I don't know, was that always a part of, I guess, the way that you kind of approached cinematography? Like even when you were kind of just starting out or?
So for me, actually, it wasn't actually, it was kind of, I felt like there was a moment in time where I kind of realized what I was doing wasn't like I should just stop and do things I want to do.
Yeah.
And that was a bit late in my career, to be honest. I did a lot of things based, like after I did my first movie and my second movie, I started to just start getting more and more kind of, I guess, offers but those projects, I just started just saying yes.
Yeah.
Because of, oh, what kind of money will I get? What kind of actors I can work with? What kind of locations I can go to?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Or just feeling busy. That was like something I kind of just did. But then after, I won't name the movie, but there's one movie I did where I saw it in the theater and I was horrified, and I just said, like, that's it. I need to. I need to start.
I find that a really weird thing though. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like just the idea of like the trajectory a career can take is basically limitless. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I look at friends of mine who are DPs that from the get-go, it's like, I don't know how they did it, but they just seem to curate like the perfect fucking career.
I know.
And I'm always like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's a weird thing because it always just kind of goes back to like, I think, the idea that there's maybe a right way to do it and a wrong way to do that. But I think that through trying things out and just failing a lot is where you kind of get to that same place. I had the same thing.
Yeah,
I wasn't doing like I got into it backwards, right? Like I started shooting feature films and TV first, and then got into commercials and music videos. But no one would hire me to shoot basically either. Yes, a music video if it was like low budget, but it was always just like when I was in Montreal or LA, and it was like an artist who's maybe I didn't really the music didn't really resonate with me, but it was like, oh my God. It was like back in the day when you're going to like Mandy.com and being like $500 to shoot a music video.
Yeah.
Sick. Give me a P2 and one of those Lettuce 35 mil adapters and I'll throw a Nikon lens on it and you're good to go. But it's like, yeah, I couldn't buy a commercial job for the longest time. And of course it started in Toronto. When I was still living in Montreal, I came to Toronto because there was a directing duo called the Pelorian Brothers, and they wanted to work with a narrative DP instead of a commercial DP. And one job with them all of a sudden opened the door. But I think that what was interesting was, you shoot a feature, and this was like right after I had done Goon with Mike Dowse, which for me was like, oh my God, a fucking $12 million feature. Like, I've made it. This is amazing. No, definitely not the first movie.
Okay.
First movie that was like, this is going to open the door. Do you know what I mean? And then it was literally just like crickets afterwards. And I spent 3 months not working and couldn't get a commercial job. Finally came to Toronto, started to get commercial work, but it wasn't consistent. So I think that, and I don't know if this is the similar experience for you, but I was just kind of like, if a feature offer came in, it was the same thing. Oh, there's a good actor in it. Oh, there's a decent budget. I'm not crazy about the script, but I mean, I've got nothing else going on, so I guess I should do it,
Exactly.
And again, that's also, not to, I think, not to look a gift horse in the mouth. It's nice to be able to like be offered work and get paid to do it and everything. And you always learn no matter what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It sounds kind of like I had a similar experience to you where it was like, I did a feature and I was just like, I don't want anyone to see this. It's like, I'm not proud of it. I had a good time doing it, but like, I want to work on stuff that I'm like proud to show people, Did
you get pigeonholed into anything?
Yeah, I think because of the Mike Dowse thing, it was like, I got my start doing comedy shows with Mike Dowse. Do you know what I mean? And it was like a TV series for like Showtime Showcase, and then Fubar 2, and then Goon, and it was just like I was the comedy guy. Do you know what I mean? And it was like from that time, I was just like, how do I get away from comedy? Like, I just don't. I want to do. I don't know. I just want to. You want to read a script that kind of really emotionally resonates with you. And it's not like comedy can't do that, but I think that I look at your kind of like your filmography for the features you've done, and it's just like everything has a lot, like it when I look at the way you've kind of crafted your career and the long form work you've chosen, I know you're making that face, but it's like, I know, but honestly, it's like, we still haven't met in person. We've chatted on the phone. You've stayed in my apartment when I was away working, and you were working with Adam Beck here. And it's just like, I've always like looked up to, I think, the diligence that it seems you've put into choosing long form work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely quite a few in there that I just strayed off a little bit. And don't get me wrong, all those projects, I had a lot of fun, and I also learned a lot.
Yeah.
It's just interesting now because I learned a lot, but and I find that in features that they follow you along. You can't delete IMDb titles.
Yeah.
I'm proud, and I've made a lot of friends that way, but they like work on those films. But it's just I did it for the wrong reasons. So now I'm like, in the last 5 years, I've really, really been hard on myself and trying to, like, I guess I've done enough to make myself feel like, okay, now slow down. Slow down.
Yeah.
And let's just do films that you really, really, really want to do.
Yeah.
And projects, because inside, it's not even about just working anymore for me. It's about feeling just personally like I'm helping in some way to tell certain stories.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also, maybe not wanting to work on projects that are putting content out into the world that maybe you don't feel is actually beneficial. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, or harmful, and, I guess kind of just reflecting on the question you asked me in terms of like, have you been pigeonholed? Like, the first thing that I saw that you did was Beyond the Black Rainbow. And I was just like, my fucking jaw was like on the movie theater floor, you know. I was just like, this is like the sickest looking thing I've ever seen, you know.
So that film was it ended up being my second movie. Just
Oh really?
you're aware, yeah.
Yeah.
My first one was called Altitude, and it was like a horror film with four teenagers up in the sky in a small plane with a creature chasing them in the sky. So, but after that film, I remember I had a lot of trouble trying to like getting that film as well, and that film. I think it was like $6 million or something, and
that's sick. That's awesome.
And you know, it was way beyond me, to be honest, and
Yeah.
a lot of the producers were trying to have me, not like the LA producers were trying to have me push off the project.
Oh God.
Thinking I couldn't do it, and this was in 1998.
So, wait, well, were you talking about the first project, or
oh yeah, the first one, yeah. And my second project was Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Yeah.
So I got Black Rainbow because of, well, maybe not because of, it's just that was it helped together, I should say.
Yeah.
And so I remember right after I did that first movie called Altitude, I updated my demo reel. I just uploaded to YouTube and sent it out. And then I remember this person writing me and saying, as a producer, Oliver Lindsley, he said, hey, I just saw your new reel. Looks great. Do you want to have a movie? It's a weird science fiction movie. Yeah, do you want to read the script? It's like, sure. So I read the script, and which ended up being Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Yeah. And
it was interesting because the script, when you read it on paper, it was very stark.
Yeah.
Like it was, you know, Alina walks down hallway, Alina sits on bed, Alina, you know, and, you know, obviously there's some waves to that, but I didn't understand it to a certain extent. And on paper, maybe it seemed a little more, almost too minimal and I guess to the point of being a little bit boring.
Yeah.
While reading it. But then I met with Panos, which was completely changed my mind on the project, because he was I love Panos, but yeah, like the experience of meeting him the first time was like I went to his apartment and all the lights were completely turned off. It was, and all I could see, like he just kind of showed up almost as a silhouette at the door, and and he said, "Oh, come on in." So then we just walked through the hallways and like
that's awesome.
Yeah, but at the end of the hallway was like this blinking light from the TV. And as I was, you know, and then there's all these VHS and DVDs kind of stacked on the floor, piled up, but falling off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so he was watching some old kind of science fiction movie on his TV, and he said, "Hey, have a seat." So we just sat down and chatted, and you know, he started telling me more about his references and, you know, what he was looking for in this film. And I was like, this is going to be really weird and interesting. So,
was this like a job interview, or just like, let's hang out and see if we vibe and kind of like, or had you gotten a job at this point?
I guess, you know, and I think what's really interesting is it seems like the hangout / interview is actually, in, as you probably experienced many times, it becomes kind of one of the same. Yeah, one of the same. So but yeah, we just I told him some ideas and he told me some of his, and he's like, "You want to do it?" So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So but after that film, which I'm very proud of, and it helped launch my career.
Yeah. When did you shoot that? In like 2010?
That was, oh, sorry. You know what? My first movie was in 1990. It was 2008.
Okay, yeah. Just only 10 years off.
Only 10 years. 2000. I shot that in 2009.
Oh, no shit, really?
And then in 2011, I think I came out and did it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people hated the movie, and a lot of people still hate the movie. But then there's a lot of people who.
I mean, it's definitely, it's you know, not necessarily the easiest watch. It's long, it's slow. It's like, I mean, I loved it. My friend who I was seeing it with was like, it was funny. So yeah, he would just kind of sigh every like 10 minutes if something happened. He'd be like, oh. And then after that, I was like, hey, new rule. When we go see movies together, you have to sit at least 2 rows away from me. Because if you don't like it, I don't want to hear you like kind of like vocalizing it through loud breathing, you know?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that. It's not for everyone,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a special project, I gotta say.
Yeah. And I
So
guess it's
yeah,
funny because it's like, I feel like once you get a taste of that, you're kind of like, you want everything to feel the same way. And I feel like what could be tough sometimes is you kind of try to project past experiences onto upcoming projects.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
by doing that, I think sometimes, I mean, this is just as a personal kind of experience. In doing so, I've kind of almost set myself up to fail instead of just allowing something to build and grow on its own and become its own thing. I'm like, I
right.
want to, I want to recreate this experience. And you try to like force it. And even if you don't, sometimes maybe subconsciously you try to, and
Yeah,
then when things don't actually kind of maybe turn out that way, it's maybe you end up being a little bit disappointed, you know? And I think a lot of the idea of like what's meaningful, you know, I think you can really try to curate it, and you can really try to be diligent about this is going to be, I have a feeling it's going to be a great project, but once you're in it, you never really know. Do you know what I mean? Like, do
that's
you
true.
agree with that, or like,
You definitely agree. I definitely agree. And then there's the other side of it of I think a lot of the people listening right now, they've gone through this too, is where you think you have an amazing script, and you love it, but then things can change during prep or production,
yeah,
or even in post production when the movie
yeah,
is done its thing, and it's just the vision of, even the original vision of the director and DP together was completely changed. And
yeah,
that happened quite a few times, I guess, in my journey.
hmm,
But then the other thing is that you think a script is, oh, I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about that, and then all of a sudden you meet the director and it's completely changed, and it's some of your most proud work.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, what usually leads you in terms of, I guess, kind of taking precedent on the decision? Like, if you read, does it always start with the script for you, even if you know the director does good work, but maybe you read the script and it doesn't resonate? Would
yeah.
that kind of like have an impact on whether or not you would want to do it, or
Yes.
is it more the relationship with the director? Is it?
Um, Definitely, like, before it was a relationship, and I
Yeah,
think that's very obviously very important to consider.
yeah,
But it doesn't, like, I found that if my heart for some reason is not in it, is not actually benefiting the director
yeah,
or production or producers or it doesn't. You just have to be excited about it, and it's not. It doesn't mean that the script is bad. Of course, it just
yeah,
maybe it doesn't. It's just not the same wavelength,
yeah,
or I'm not there yet myself. Like,
yeah,
and I just need to understand the vision and the intent. So, like, something I kind of now go by, like, I'm trying to go by a few things that, like, I look for in directors and in projects.
yeah,
For you, like, I don't know, I'd like to hear your thoughts too, but I like, to make sure that there's a sensitivity to the content.
yeah,
And I like the idea of being, for what you say, you have to be kind of accountable with the content as well. You don't want to just say whatever and just put it out there without
hmm,
really knowing it or meaning it. And then lastly is, like, being vulnerable. And I know that Bradford Young, I just read and said that recently, and that's something I thought about before, and when he said that, it really resonated with me, because when you're able to strip away any kind of personal biases, or not really so much bias, like, so that's the wrong words, just defensiveness, and any kind of
oh man, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
then you can actually open up so much more
And I
to
think also, and sorry, I totally mean to cut you off, but I think you open yourself up to the possibilities of the work you can create with the director, with the act, especially with the actors. You know, it's, and I think that that idea of, I really feel the thing that hurts people the most is their own ego. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And yes, you need to be decisive. Yes, it's good to go to the mat for certain ideas. But I think that what you just said, I think that shit counts for everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
taking that, trying to take that out of the equation, and really, you know, and obviously it's hard, you know, it's like you make a movie, it's built on relationships, it's built on collaboration, and sometimes maybe you're not going to be in the best mood, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
I think stripping that away and allowing yourself to, yeah, you know, be vulnerable and just kind of try to make mistakes, you know. And I think that's also, you know, I don't know if you've had you know, this experience with specific directors, or you've had a lot of, you know, repeat work with a lot of directors. You know, you look at some of your short form stuff and it's, you know, it's clear that you have, you know. But I think when you find those people that allow you to tap into that side of yourself is when it kind of creates a really special bond. Do you know what I mean?
oh yeah, and I think like to add to that is the honesty of the relationship between, if it's whether it's a new relationship or a recurring relationship between director and DP. Not to let the relationship get complacent in your and holding everyone, I guess, accountable for,
Yeah.
you know, if something is you know, every choice has to be made because you mean it, and you have to be honest with yourself. You can't just, you know, and it comes more from less like a technical standpoint, obviously. It's like but a lot of those technical, I guess it's hard to relate the two, to be honest. But
I don't know, man. I feel like I totally kind of see what you're saying, though. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, so when I did Castle in the Ground last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was, so like, you know, it's the fourth project I'd done with Joey Klein, who's like one of my best friends, and it was a really hard shoot. Like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like
what?
It was like lost the lead actor 2 weeks before. Budget got slashed. Our shoot schedule went from 25 days to 23 days to 20 days. And then the lead actor we cast didn't have his passport, so we missed the first day with him. So it became 19 days. And then the other lead got really sick one day, went to the hospital. It was just like, it was like the most immense clusterfuck in the world. But me and Joey, you know, were aware that, you know, shit was kind of going sideways really quickly in prep. And at one point we were like location scouting on our own at nighttime. And I turned to him and I was like, hey, you know, just so you know, like, you know, because we've only ever had amazing experiences together and I was like, this is going to be a hard shoot. And I'm sure at some point, maybe I'll, you know, maybe get defensive or snap at you, and maybe you'll do the same to me. And I just want to let you know that that's totally fine. Like, I don't want to take that personally. Like there's a lot of stress right now. And even just kind of acknowledging that, I think, it just kind of let a little bit of room for us to kind of not feel like our friendship would get affected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think from a technical standpoint, you know, of course that's going to come into play. Do you know what I mean? If you're on a shoot where, you know, you or the director is like really stressed out and you're scrambling to make, you know, the last scene of the day, so you're not doing overtime because the producer is standing behind you looking at his watch being like, I'm fucking cutting you off in 5 minutes. Technically I feel like it ends up putting a bit of pressure on you when you really care about something, because you're like, if something doesn't look the right way or the way you intended it, and you start to want to make a tweak or change a lens, or you're like, fuck, we should have blocked it over here, then I think that's where that kind of starts to meld and morph kind of between one another. And I think what's great is that, going back to that idea of like, you know, vulnerability and maybe taking your ego out of it, if the director or the actors know that the reason you want to do it is maybe there's a technical reason behind it, but they know and that it's for the story event, you know, at the end of the day, that I think that kind of counts for a lot. You know what I mean? And so I think when you strip yourself down and you show vulnerability, and the ego kind of maybe goes kind of like falls to the wayside, and you're there with the actors and with the directors by their side, and you create a really, you know, as safe a space for them as possible, then I think that the intention behind what you want to do kind of will always kind of come to the forefront, you know?
It's a very good point. Like there was I've definitely fallen into that mindset where Or sometimes, like it's really important in each project I do now, more and more, I start to make sure that I don't take like previous processes
Yeah.
and thoughts and films and relationships and make sure that and apply those to the next project too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's the point of doing? Yes, you learn from each one, but why apply it? And then also to kind of make sure that I think a lot of us are guilty of it. Is that our opinion as cinematographer, yes, it is important in the collaboration, but is not the vision sometimes of like the director.
Yeah.
And the director have something that's it might not at the time jive with the way you thought of it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. It's just like, yes, it means something, but then you have to really take a step back, take a breath, and ask yourself why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
And,
but do you find sometimes that comes up because you're almost like, fuck, do I care about this project more than the director does? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like it's just an interesting thing when I feel like a lot of DPs whose work really resonates with me. We've had so many conversations where it feels like they want to put in more time than anyone else to make sure the project's perfect,
I mean, there's been some like that, but for the most part, I think that we all care so much that it becomes, it definitely, some of it comes maybe from a ego standpoint, but then it comes from really wanting, I guess what we think is the best for the project. And that doesn't necessarily mean it is the best for the project. And I've learned a few times recently that whether it's a technical choice or like, I guess, an editing choice, that there's intention behind it. And I've learned like that. So at first it still didn't sit well, and not sit well, but like it felt off for me. But then I was like, wow, this is way better now.
Yeah.
And you see, I learned that way. I think it's important to listen to our collaborators.
Yeah. Can I ask you a couple questions about, I mean, this kind of transcends to all of your work, but I really started to notice it in a lot of the short form stuff, like Under the Viaduct and the Alaskan Tapes video you did. That's like, all one take that ends on the drone over the pool and everything. Yes. And the project you shot with Meredith for Alaskan Tapes as well. But, and clearly I see this in all your long form work, but man, there's a way that you fucking move the camera that's just so, I don't know, it just feels like so much thought's put into it. Do you know what I mean? But it's just, I don't know. It's a really weird thing. It's, I can't put my finger on why it is. Do you know what I mean? But it's like every project of yours, whether it's stuff you've directed or stuff you've DP'd, it just has a feeling of care. And like, it's made with like loving hands. Do you know what I mean? That want to like, that want to kind of like present it to the world in kind of like a delicate way, not to say that the work is delicate or is like fragile or anything. I think there's a lot of weight behind it, but yeah, I don't know. And I guess, just in relation to what we're talking about, like, that does in your mind, does that stem from, if, when you really care about something, it needs to be how you see it,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on yours, but it's like, a lot of the short form work I do, there's no money. Or for me at least, and generally not much money for the project. And so each project that I do that's short form these days, I really, really have to, well, any project really, whether it's a feature or whatever, but you're not getting paid, you want to really make sure you handle it with care. And it's something that I guess I care even more about it. So yeah, like, for Under the Viaduct, that's the only project that I directed. Actually, I'll just do a little screen cap because I'm not sure everyone has. Where is it? So where is it? So this is. I'm just gonna. So yeah, this is Under the Viaduct. It's a project that meant a lot to me, and it's my only directing and project where I DP'd. It's a short form. but it basically, follows.
Is it? I don't see it. I don't see it up on the screen. I see.
Oh, you don't feel it on the screen? I'm sorry,
No.
everyone. For some reason, oh, weird.
Do you see it on yours?
Yeah. Oh, you don't see this? You don't see this?
No, all I see is the browser window.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, this is what it's going to be like every time we try to share something. Jeremy had to try to walk us through this for like 30 minutes, and both of us were like, "I don't know what I'm doing."
I was scrolling through the project, but let me just before. Okay,
yeah, of course.
Anyone? Here we go. Okay. I think I have to open it first and then share.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So basically, this is my personal project, but I was inspired by this one. It's very, very slow, restrained, but I felt that my intention for this was to make sure that every moment was felt. Because the content for me was extremely important and resonant in the. Sorry, let me just this is bothering me by. So we just I'll just show it a little bit first, and then we just kind of end in crows flying by.
Yeah.
In the piece. So there. Sorry. So that film for me is interesting because I did that about 2 years ago now, and it was inspired by. And I want to ask you, Bobby, if you have done any personal projects where you DP'd as well. But for me, that's my only one, and it was inspired by an experience that I had. So I basically was driving by one morning, dropping off my partner Meredith to work, and when I drove back by myself, I noticed, and this is somewhere I drive by every single day, very close to my apartment, and it was pouring rain, it was dark out, and I saw these large pools of water with, multiple tents, displaced individuals, and I saw a little bit of light inside each, one of them actually, sitting in these pools of water in rain, and next to it, 50 feet away, was Cirque du Soleil, another giant tent that has an over $1 billion per year revenue.
Yeah.
And just literally across the street was someone suffering that I felt compared to. And what does this company do to help, those in need? Yeah. So I got out of the car and I just kind of stood there and I felt really, really emotional. And so, I don't have any obviously any lived experience being displaced. And this is more from a personal and empathetic standpoint, perspective. And I just felt like compelled to make this film to show how, there's a lot of traffic it was quiet, but there's traffic that would ignore, would drive by. Yeah. So it was very important to me to show over the two viaducts, drivers just, people passing by without even noticing anymore. Yeah. And so, obviously this symbolism of the tent on fire showing displacement and communities being destroyed. Yeah. And that community used to be Hogan's Alley. Which is a community with one of the main Black communities in Vancouver. Oh, no shit. That was displaced in 1969, 1970, around there, to build those two bridges. No. Sorry, I'm talking a lot about this. But no. But I think and I'm sure this is the same sensitivity and I think kind of emotional resonance you bring to the work that you just DP. But I think that if the point of entry for something is based, I think, on how much of an emotional engagement and attachment you can make with it, it's going to come through in the work. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, I actually have never spoken to you outside of like some technical stuff that was like, oh, how'd you shoot that? Oh, it was a Russian arm. Oh, that's cool. Oh yeah, you shot film. That's fucking awesome. But all that shit is like well and good, but
the fact that what you just shared with me completely informs the reason why it doesn't feel slow. You feel completely engaged.
Mhm.
I don't know why I felt so engaged that I wanted to watch it 3 times in a row the first time I saw it,
Wow.
but there's something there. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that there's an intangible quality to the emotional resonance you have with a project, whether it's your own or with someone else's that you're collaborating on,
Mhm.
that I kind of feel in some weird amorphous ethereal way kind of just translates itself to the screen, hopefully. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it definitely did on under the viaduct, you know. There's
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I know that I only had 2 weeks to like from the idea just to make it, because I really needed to make it. I felt like
yeah.
my life would be almost, I needed to make it. I just had to. And then, but to put it together in 2 or 3 weeks, because I knew Cirque du Soleil was leaving and the tent would be gone. And then it was like December and it was raining, and I just had to make sure I did it. So I had so much help from a lot of friends, you know, to get all the stuff out and make it happen.
It was funny. I was talking to Adam Beck, who's a director in Toronto that both me and Norm have worked with, and he's one of my best friends. And I think it was like while you were staying here working on the commercial together, and then we were talking about Under the Viaduct. He's like, yeah, Norm went down there every day to look at like the migration patterns of the crows, so he could.
Wow. You remember that?
Well, that's what I remember. That's what he told me, and I was like,
wow, that is true.
But I was also just like, that's so fucking sick. That's so cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, just to be like, it's got to be right. Do you know what I mean?
I wanted to make sure that the birds flew over the right time and that they were there. So.
Yeah, fucking sick, man. But yeah, so I guess do you find, like, I've never directed anything, and I actually realized very early on I don't have any interest in directing anything, because I really, really strongly feel that I'm not good at coming up with ideas or conceptualizing anything. But I think what I'm pretty decent at is taking other people's ideas and elevating them a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, like a lot of the times, you know, I'll have like friends be like, oh, you know, do you have time off? It's great. You can work on personal projects. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want to find the people who I just get along really well with as like friends. Maybe we have debates, maybe we get into arguments, but you feel so engaged. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I just want to find people like that I can make work with, you know, because that's where I feel the most kind of inspired. Because I got to be honest, like when I do take time off, and I actually have been taking a lot of time off the last few years because, you know, my dad was sick for a while, and it just felt like, you know, I felt very privileged and lucky that, again, I didn't have a family to support or, you know, don't own anything, but it felt like I wanted to spend time when I'm not working to actually just work on myself and not think about craftsmanship or artistic shit, you know, because I think that it's like, you know, sitting in a park, reading a book, engaging with people that maybe don't necessarily work in film, trying to learn more about who you are as an individual, whether it's like exercise, meditation, whatever it is, you know what I mean? I think eventually, hopefully, translates itself to the collaborations you'll kind of have in the future, you know?
Do you find, what is your process for finding, you know, meaningful collaborators? Like, how do you?
Man, I don't know. I have tried to, it's so weird. It's like, I honestly I look at the people who, the directors whose work I really, really love and respect, most of whom, say on the short form side, I have friends who are working with them. And I'll just be like, how did you get connected with them? Like, because I don't know. I mean, I'd be super curious to get your answer on this, but I have so many friends who are DPs that are just so good at like reaching out to folks. Do you know what I mean? Just be like, I'm going to email this director. I love your work. I want to get together. And I get like so much anxiety around that. I'm just like, oh, but it'll feel weird if I write them, and what if they think I'm a hack? And like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. And it's like the 2 times I've done it, I've gotten no response, you know? So it's just kind of like over to you on that side. So yeah, I don't know. It's like,
I've been kind of thinking about, like, while we've had a chance to, during this time, I kind of thought, like, you know, the name of this topic is finding meaningful projects, right?
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, don't really find them. And I think through who we are and the other types of projects that we slowly curate and accumulate and work on that we are happy with collaborators who have the honesty and sincerity in their work. And once those start to come out, then the projects, I guess, find you. You don't find them.
Yeah.
Like you do in a certain way, but it's not like, I mean, you can, but I think it's kind of like, I would say, things that you actively look for, sometimes you don't see it when you're walking down the street. And then when you don't expect something, then it's there.
Dude,
and I mean, like,
that's so, I mean, it's just, that's so well articulated, because I think that I look back to the times where I was like trying to force projects to happen or force a trajectory to happen. Mm-hmm. You just end up frustrating yourself, and then it doesn't happen, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. And I think that, I mean, but I think you're totally right. It's like, I think that the projects you end up working on are a response to the work that you put out, you know what I mean? And if you are good, I think if you're good about choosing the projects you attach your name to that you really care about, then projects that are similar or things that are made by people that that you would be able to collaborate well with do end up finding. I think that's you just put that in such a kind of just like lovely, articulate way,
It's interesting because I'm finding that more lately of just the more I want something, and we all need and want things, right? And we have goals and careers, but then it's like sometimes like the more I want it, the less I'll get it. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's just my being unlucky, but yeah, it's like if you're driving down the street or riding your bike, it's different from walking. And walking quickly to work versus slowly strolling, you notice things, and those things you notice is just so important to there's so many avenues and little.
Do you bring? I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like, do you find you bring that kind of sensibility to set? Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of like when I'm working on something, especially if it's narrative, and especially if the content is something you really, you want to be sensitive to all content, but if it's something that you're like, you're part of kind of creating that kind of space where, an actor can take a chance and fail, the director can take a chance and fail, you can take a chance and fail, that the idea of how fucking hectic everything gets on set, I just love it when you can sit down and actually really pay attention and not be like, okay, I just need to get this done, but you're just like, you're watching for like little details and stuff, and like.
Well, I mean, yes, like once we get to set and there's definitely like I gotta get this done, there's only X number of hours, and people are over my shoulder. But I think a lot of the introspection comes from life outside of set, and applying that hopefully in prep a little bit, and then on set, it's interesting. Like the last maybe 7 years, I've been very, very adamant about every project being not so much shot listed, but more all the overhead diagrams.
Yeah.
Just to like before set, making sure that every single scene, not before set, before shooting, every single scene is completely planned out to a T, with every single director, every page, everything, and well thought out.
Yeah.
And then after you've done one broad stroke, going through everyone again and being meticulous about it. And I love that. But then now I'm starting to think like, am I planning too much? And
I don't know, man. I think it depends how you do it. Like when you make a plan like that, do you leave room to deviate from it, or is it kind of?
Well, I feel like when before there is now, before there wasn't, and when things don't work on set, like for example, I don't know, one of the actors doesn't, which I feel like it makes sense. Director and the DP can't decide exactly where and why an actor should sit where they should sit, or walk here or walk that. They should do what's natural. So if it all changes, then it's like, whoa, what do I do now? And then, now I'm way better at adapting
Yeah.
But before it was like, it would take me off guard.
Well, I'm not only off your guard, but it's like I used to like take offense to it, you know, in a way. Like obviously, I wouldn't tell anyone, but it's like it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like I'm totally of the same mind where it's like plan as much as possible, and then you get to set and you have an idea of what the blocking, or at least this was me 10 years ago. I had an idea of what the blocking should be, and so we could get the shots that director spoke about. And then if it didn't happen, I would be like, but we spoke about this 2 weeks ago. It has to be like this. And it was just like this really immature sense of control. Do you know what I mean? Of like, I need to be in control of everything. And I think what I started to realize throughout my whole career, but especially in the last 5 years, is that control the shit that you can, embrace the shit that you can't, but the way you figure out what that means to you as an individual and to the director and to the actors is by planning everything in the most meticulous way possible, because I'm the same way. Like still shot list everything. And if the director doesn't want a shot list, I make my own shot list. But it has more to do with not where does the camera go, what the lens is, but what's happening in the scene, who's driving the scene, what's the subtext, what do we want to show? If this scene had to be distilled to one single shot, what would be the most effective way to actually show what's going on for the person that's driving the scene the most? And working like that, what I love is like every project I do now, it's like I don't like drawing shot lists or like drawing any storyboards or anything, like maybe like photos. But what I actually love the most is sitting down with the director, shot listing everything, asking so many questions, and just seeing where the conversation goes. And then literally just I'll type out pages and pages and pages of notes, and then I'll retype them and go through them and add, notes for art department or VFX or SFX or whatever. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what you've spoken about. But what I love about that is it creates a template, it creates a plan, but from my perspective, it creates an understanding of the character and the story, so that if you do that amount of work and for whatever reason you get to set and your night exterior all of a sudden has to become a day interior for whatever reason, it does not matter. You still know how to shoot it. Do you know what I mean? True. You can go from an expansive crane shot that booms down into a tiny apartment, but you know what the intention of the scene wants to be. And well, okay, this is what we planned for this. Now it's this, but okay, well, it's still the same feeling, right? How do we adapt that to this new situation? And I think that applies to actor blocking as well, and there's just something so nice about it. Feels like you're doing emotional homework. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, it's great because it's like you have an idea, but if everything changes, I feel like you still know what you're doing. Hopefully.
Yeah, you have to, because that feeling of not knowing, and then there's times ticking, everyone's looking at you, thinking you know what you want to do next. That's scary because, and it happens every so often for sure. Like it just happens, but yeah, that plan is so important, and which kind of there was a film, my last feature, The Body Remembers When the World Will Go. So that film was interesting in the sense of not so much just the execution of the long shot, but just the idea that we rehearsed so much. And it also had to feel like I'm just capturing it the first time or seeing it and not really knowing what's going on. But when you practice anything so much, it starts to potentially feel a bit rehearsed. And
how did you start rehearsals? Like, was it just you, the actors, the director, and you would walk the route? You would kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. So it was extremely, it was very complicated in terms of, so in case some people here don't know the film, it's a film directed by Elma Tailfeathers and Kathleen Hepburn, called The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open. And it was shot in like, there's multiple scenes in this, there's to introduce there's two main characters. But once the two characters meet, by chance, that's when this 90-minute shot happens. and on film.
Yeah, not only film, but fucking Anamorphic 16, man. It's like,
Anamorphic
it looks
16.
so good, dude. It's great.
Yeah. But on top of that, it was really amazing is that our one of our lead actresses was her first film,
Mm-hmm.
a non-actor, Violet Nelson. So she never acted in the film before. She was in a small music video, not too long ago before this film, but she had to remember basically 9 minutes of dialogue,
Yeah.
and also be natural with it, and maneuver with the camera to make it all feel natural. And so, that it was amazing what she pulled off. Like,
Yeah.
and also Elmaya, who's the other co-director, but also one of the main actors.
Yeah.
But in terms of with the directors, we had to break down each location one at a time, and really work out the intention and the perspective of Rosie.
Yeah.
And sometimes the changing perspective from one character to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we there? Should we linger there? Should we not even see the rest of the people in the room?
Yeah.
Just continue them and enter their headspace. So
yeah,
all those decisions were made beforehand and meticulously thought of. And there was some obviously room for being reactionary and what's the word? Intuitive in any kind of moments. Like there's certain things that.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask. Obviously, you're approaching something that everything you're saying is driven by character and story, but then you also have the limitations of a 10-minute mag. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just kind of like, then how do you start to work that shit in? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, what happened? What happens if something changes in the blocking? You notice something, and you're like, I want to pan the camera over here, but if I do that, does it completely derail?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's
I mean, there was definitely room for that improvisation of if I saw, for example, Rosie playing with a nacho on her knee, that nacho was so important. No one knew she was going to play with that nacho. I didn't know. And then, but with my left eye that was open, I saw that, and she was tapping it. So this whole scene was basically, at a safe house, many people were trying to give her some advice and help her in the situation. But then she was tapping a nacho on her knee. So you could tell like almost where her mind was. Yeah. It wasn't about all these people helping her anymore. It was just about this escaping to this nacho on her knee that she's playing with. And I saw that, and I was like, oh, I have to trip. I have to just get that.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that take ended up in the film. But to break down, I don't want to talk too long about this because it can. But every scene was basically broken down, and then we had to make sure that everything happened within the 11 minutes on a mag. So on 16. So, but we didn't want to go all the way up to 11 minutes because well, if anything changed, we could run out of film, which happened once during our shooting. We ran out of film because the scene just kind of went everyone's talking a little slower.
Yeah.
More pauses. So we ran out of film near the end of on day 2 after a 90-minute. This film was all shot within 90 minutes period in time. So we didn't have the luxury of with each scene stopping, starting to get it. Wanted to go from beginning at 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. For performance reasons, the story and light. So
yeah. And it's also, but I mean, isn't that, I don't know, but it's like, I love because it didn't feel like an idea, the long take. Do you know what I mean? Like I watched the movie in the theater, and it was hard to get into, to be honest. It took me about 20-25 minutes to kind of like get settled. And then once you're settled, all of a sudden the movie's over, and it didn't seem like a gimmick, the idea of a long take at all. Do you know what I mean?
No, we weren't
literally. And I love that it's like you can take an idea like that, and then for you, it's like clearly most stuff you shoot is on film. That means that's something that's super, super important to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you know, of course you look at a 90-minute tape, well, we're not doing it on film. And you're like, no, we are doing it on film, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it on film. Do you know what I mean? And it's that thing of like, when you care about something so much, you're just like, there's always a way to figure it out, no matter what someone's telling you, there's always a solution, you know? And I think
the funny thing is I didn't even know.
So what? But you did intuitively, somewhere deep down, and you kind of
figured it out.
Yeah.
But
do you mind if I actually ask you how you figured it out? Because I was trying to be like, you know, obviously the camera as it's operating, you know, would like dip down in fine moments. Like, were those kind of like your cut points, or?
It depends. No, so the cut points, there's 12 designated cut points.
And you had all decided that all in prep, obviously, right?
We had to kind of work from the performance back, so that it wasn't dictated by camera. So I had to make sure that with camera, obviously, but then, you know, so I would build in certain moments. Okay, I'm gonna pass by this wall, or, you know, someone's gonna pass by camera, or there's different ways. But I didn't want any kind of whip pans in the film, because
of course,
I wanted it to be slow panning. So I did a lot of tests to make sure that the idea worked. And I think with film, it actually helps with the grain, meld things together.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
So there's 12 cut points, and I would just, we would rehearse having the camera handed to me, or I would film up to a certain point.
Yeah.
The camera would go off for like, let's say 8 minutes and 22 seconds.
Yeah.
And another one was pre-rolling with my right settings, and the camera, everything was all set to what I needed to be. And then I would just keep going. So that I would call it real-time transitioning, where it would be basically a half a second, which would be built into the blocking. But I mean,
you were obviously VFXing the stitch and everything, like either through Roto or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. And there was a question that came in from Arthur just about whether or not, or why the choice for handheld over Steadicam.
I feel like Steadicam would have been, we felt Steadicam would have been a little too perfect and slick. For this, and also kind of getting in and out of vehicles would be very hard.
True enough.
But that's not the only reason. But purely, we wanted to feel like more like a realist, social realist type of film. And not, it wasn't the right feeling.
And I guess also, I mean, you know, I'm sure, you know, a lot of DPs get asked this question whether or not they like to operate, you know, but clearly for a movie like this, for you to be behind the camera and holding it and, you know, just vibing with everything that's kind of going on is kind of seems like it makes the most sense. Like, do you bring that sensibility to all your projects? Like, do you try to operate as much as possible, or?
Yeah, I like that. I really want to ask you this, because this is one of my questions to you.
Yeah.
Being, you know, coming from a similar world and time as with me, is how do you, when you transition from independent stuff and music videos and short films and then features, and now you're doing TV series, and you know, you did the big movie Stuber. Studio film. What is your, first of all, how did that happen, and how did you make those choices to switch over, and did you have trouble with that? And then also like people operating for you, I'm assuming, because I don't know. I love to hear.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I kind of back to what you said before. I kind of feel like, I don't know if I necessarily made those choices. I think that they almost were kind of made for me, at least at the beginning, because any opportunity that came up, I was like, oh yeah, I'll shoot that. That's great. There's a job coming in. This is awesome, you know? And a lot of that had to do with not necessarily having a foothold in the commercial world, not necessarily having a foothold in the music video world. And I think that I kind of, after doing Goon, I kind of cut my teeth on a bunch of features that hopefully no one will ever see. Do you know what I mean? But they had enough budget that I got to learn a lot of stuff, which was great, you know? And I think that, you know, transitioning to, I think, bigger budget stuff, it felt, I mean, that, at least from my perspective, it felt like a very natural kind of progression. Do you know what I mean? Just from like a technical standpoint, like, I had just done a commercial that was motion control or used a 50-foot techno crane, which I've never used before. And now all of a sudden you're on a feature that's got money and you're like, oh yeah, 50-foot techno crane goes over there. Like you actually know what you're talking about, you know? But I think it's just, I don't know. In terms of the choices, it's like, yeah, I kind of feel like it's only really been in the last few years that I've been trying to actually really actively make decisions that feel more, I think, personally rewarding and fulfilling. Like doing Stuber was just like, it's a, you know, $30 million American studio movie. Of course I'm going to do it. It's with the director who jump started my entire career. Like it would be dumb not to, you know. Is it meaningful in the way that, like, you know,
on the cloud,
like Castle in the Ground is to me? Like not even close, you know. But did I take a lot away from it? Yeah, it was great, you know. It's like shooting, you know, car chases and explosions and gunfights, and working with, like, I mean, the crew was like fucking sick. Like the A operator worked on like every Roland Emmerich movie, did like The Day After Tomorrow, and I would just be like, that's my favorite movie. I love trashy, shitty Hollywood movies, and I'd be like, just tell me all the stories, you know. But yeah, so, you know, it's definitely, it definitely kind of checked a box, you know what I mean, but not in the same way that I think when you work on something that you feel kind of really close to, you would never use, or I would never use the term check the box. It would just be like, it's super fulfilling and just feels super good, you know?
Can I ask, would you like, because it's so different from the stuff that you love shooting and you're really good at, which is beautiful, intimate dramas, would you do another Stuber type film, or is it kind of like you dabbled in there a little bit?
I gotta be honest, man. It's like, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is, my like hopes and dreams are to take that genre of film that doesn't exist anymore because of streaming. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get a Road to Perdition anymore. You don't get a Fight Club anymore. You don't get a Seven anymore. You're not shooting like, you know, 50-60 million dollar kind of essentially character dramas. You know what I mean? But under the guise of entertainment. Like that shit just isn't there. And like, that's like my dream. Do you know what I mean? Is to shoot something like of that scale. But it seems now it's either a comic book movie that's $200 million or a $10 million kind of like indie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of maybe the gap that, like, you know, streaming services have kind of filled in. But TV's also, I mean, I don't know. Like, have you had interest in shooting TV? Like for me, it's been like, it's been pretty fucking brutal. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like,
well, it's just like that thing of like, you know, where you just don't, you want to bring something to the table that feels personal and that feels a little bit kind of like you're just not, you know, punching a clock and like just, you know, shooting for the sake of getting content. It's more like shoot for the sake of telling the story, you know? And obviously there's TV that exists, you know? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, because for TV series, you've done 2 or 3 TV series or more.
Yeah, I did. Well, I did like, I mean, again, because I got my start in comedy, I was kind of the comedy guy and I couldn't get away from it. And the first TV series I did was the first season of Man Seeking Woman, which again, great fucking experience, super fun. And then after that, I did the first season of the Netflix version of Anna Green Gables. And that was strictly because the director who was doing the pilot, Nikki Caro, actually wanted to hire me to work with her. And I was like, I've been watching her movies since film school. Yeah. And for me, it was 100% like, I mean, the scripts were great. The content was great. The showrunner was awesome. But Nikki was like, wow, I got a chance to work with you, you know? And then, so she was just kind of, you know, wasn't interested in doing a 6-month TV show, but being able to work with her and just get the experience of doing the pilot with her was worth the other 4 months of work. Do you know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, no, I know, like, for me being interested in TV, I am, but I'm also kind of not.
Yeah.
There's been a few things on the table over the years, but I guess, I mean, the commitment of like 6+ months is a little bit scary for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think it has to be just perfect opportunity to do a TV series for me at the moment. Mm-hmm. But but yeah, no, I'm definitely interested. Just
I mean, I guess like kind of just along that line though, it's like, do you make decisions based on, oh, this will bump me up in my career? If I do this show, then all of a sudden I will now be eligible to do whatever that next tier or echelon of show is. Like, is that something that crosses your mind, or like?
so yeah, that's a very good question, because for me, I think that's something that people should always try to make sure that they strive for. But I'm, strangely enough, at this point in my career, I'm not just trying to bump my career and do just bigger things.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Like I would like to if it's the right thing, but for me, it's not. Yeah, I don't think that's my.
Yeah. And
my
that's,
thing.
I mean, I got to be honest, I more times than I'm proud of, the thought of, oh, this could be good for my career has 100% been the driving force of,
Well, yeah.
of wanting to do a job.
Mhm.
And the times that I've made decisions based on that, more often than not, it was the wrong motivation. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I really, and again, I think this comes back to like, from the minute I started seeing your work, it really seemed like there was a very, very intentional motivation behind the projects that you would choose, or at least the ones that you would choose to show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's, you know, I still feel it's like I'm 40 years old and I've been doing this like, you know, long enough, like 12 years or so, but I still feel like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing when it comes to how do you choose a project. You know what I mean? Like, even like last year, I did a Netflix series that was shooting in Toronto, and I honestly, I was completely seduced by the scripts were good, but one of the main motivations was, it was the team that had done House of Cards. And I was
Cool.
like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. I'm super excited. Oh my God. But there was a part of me that was like, is this though? Like I reread the scripts and I was like, I don't know if it's my jam. I don't know if I'm really vibing with it. And I ended up saying yes to the project. And
Yeah.
2 days into prep, it was blatantly clear that the show was not going to be how it was pitched to be. And I was like literally calling my agents, I want to walk away. And everyone was like, you can't, you've made a commitment. You have to stay on. Except for the European agent, Rebecca at Lux, was like,
Okay.
there's not enough bridges in this world that you can burn. If you're not happy, get the fuck out of there, you know? But anyways, it was the same thing. It was like, you know, made a decision to do a show based on the wrong reasons. And it was the first time I ever quit a job. Halfway through, I was just, I was miserable. The show was it was just not, there's so many things going on that were outside of anyone's control. And it didn't feel like, I think, what I thought I had signed up for. But
Yeah.
I think what I thought I had signed up for, I think deep down, I knew that my motivations were wrong, you know?
Yeah. That's interesting. Good for you for you know.
I mean, it was really empowering. It was like, you know, it was great to be able to have a conversation with a producer and a showrunner and basically say that, you know, I'm not happy. This isn't what I thought it would be. And I don't think that I can continue. And again, just going back to vulnerability, I was like, you know, the guy who, you know, basically EP'd House of Cards for 6 years, I was in his office kind of like talking about how my, you know, the death of my father, and reflecting on like kind of just like spiritual type stuff and wanting to be present in work and with family. And I'm crying and he's crying. And it was just like, it was fucking awesome. Cause it was just like, it just felt right. You know what I mean? And he was like, I may not fully agree with where you're coming from, but I understand it. And I was like, great. You know, sorry, I cut you off. So
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make sure that because I know there's some questions probably popping up.
Oh, yeah.
And let's just double check just in case.
I just got a text from Ben Loeb, all in caps, "You shot Stuber. I had no idea. This is amazing," which means a lot because like Ben's one of my favorite DPs. So.
Oh, I love Ben. Yeah. Well,
yeah. Are you guys are like homies from back in Vancouver, right?
Yes. Yeah. I love
That's
Ben.
awesome.
There's not many.
Not many.
No questions. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, sick. Great. What's I gonna say though? I don't know. I kind of want to talk more about vulnerability on set a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think especially looking at like Never Steady, Never Still,
Mhm.
because clearly that's the kind of movie that it kind of starts here and just goes kind of down, 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 down. But it never comes across as exploitative at all. Do you know what I mean? It feels like there's a lot of care in it still. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot. Okay, I'm gonna be. I need to use the washroom real quickly, everyone. I'm really
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Back very quickly.
Great. Now I'm sitting here by myself. I guess if anyone has any questions for Norm, send them along and I'll answer on his behalf. Oh, okay. Jeremy and Christina just suggested maybe just showing something quick. So I figured maybe just quickly while Norm's gone, just kind of like a short commercial that I shot with one of my best friends, Jamie Webster at Common Good. That was, again, I think just a good example of where something kind of comes in as meaningful. It was, for Ronald McDonald House, it was a PSA. No one got paid well. The creative content was amazing, but there was no budget to do it properly. So, hey, Norm,
Hey.
just so you know, Jeremy was just like show something while you were away. So I was just talking about a commercial that I was just going to show real quick.
Oh, please.
But yeah, so this. No, I wanted to show this Ronald McDonald House one just because it was a really fun project to work on. That again was like there was, no one got paid. It was a really good kind of like they didn't really have a budget to do it properly, so it was a lot of just like planning to make it work. So anyway, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep,
so I'll play it. Just let me know if you can hear the audio. Hear the audio? Can you hear the audio, Norm?
I can hear it.
Mom? Mom?
Hey, buddy, I'm here. What are you doing up so late?
I had a bad dream.
Oh, no, again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the same one from last night.
Well, it's a good thing you're the bravest kid I know.
Thanks, Mom.
Try to get some sleep now, okay, honey?
Okay. But Mom,
Yeah, baby.
when are you coming back?
First thing tomorrow morning. I promise.
But why can't you be here now?
Bob, you're gonna make me cry.
Yeah, you know what it is though, man. It's all that kind of Pixies piano cover. Do you know what I mean? It's the song. It's really it tugs the heartstrings. But yeah, I guess kind of like I know this may kind of like derail the conversation a little bit, but just to the point of working on something that you really it was with a really good friend. He wanted to knock it out of the park. I wanted to knock it out of the park at the same time, but the resources aren't there. So it's like half of the stuff we shot kind of like with a minimal crew kind of like on our own, or
It looks big.
like, and also just kind of, I think that, hearing the way you spoke about what you did on The Body Remembers from a technical standpoint, but as a means of fostering the film as a whole. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love how when you need to think about technical things as a DP, but as a way to be like, it's going to be the most beneficial to like the story or the image, like I don't know if you remember there's a shot of like a big wide shot of like Arctic kind of tundra. And then there's a closer. So we went on a frozen lake and shot the person. And then Jamie, who's the director and works at Common Good, kind of made it look like snowy and everything. But the close up, they were like, well, we need to shoot the close up on the lake, and we're going to have to bring fans out. And I was like, dude, we're spending a day and a half at a studio. Let's do it in the parking lot. And they're like, what do you mean? It'll never work. I'm like, I guarantee you it'll work. In my head, I said that. And inside I was like, it's never going to fucking work. But we basically just built a box of like 20 by 30 white muslins so that we could shoot into white, pumped it full of snow. And it was like a blazing sunny day out, and we just flagged everything and shot a close up like this. And it was just like, and then you could actually spend an hour getting performance as opposed to being out on a frozen lake and being like, I'm fucking, get me the fuck out of here, you know? So.
Did you have to shoot like I saw that? That's cool. Did you shoot on a boat for that one too? Or?
Yeah.
Actually, okay. I wouldn't be able to do a job like that.
Well, the boat was, we shot the first shot was actually out, but the all the other stuff, it was static, which is kind of like Harvard or whatever. So. Yeah.
Even on
what do you get, like seasick or like, really?
Just so everyone can, I can't, I can just look at a boat
and want to throw
docked
up
and from land, and I will get it. Yeah.
Dude,
and there's a movie I did in Dominican where I thought I could, okay, I'm just going to brave this.
Yeah.
Then there's a 7-day unit on the boat in the middle of the ocean. And we went out there and I almost died. I felt like I couldn't.
Were you just like popping Dramamine like every 20 minutes? Like
it just didn't work.
Really?
And then basically I had to just go back and So we were talking. I know we kind of diverged a little.
Yeah, totally.
There's a few questions that actually just popped up. I wanted to make sure we see them. Okay. Matt is asking, do you feel? So one is here. It says, Matt is asking, do you feel the phrase "you're only as good as your last job" rings true in your own? Oops, just missed that. In your own experience.
You wanna hit that one first?
Yeah, definitely. There's like I feel like it's 50-50. You want like, I had so much bad work that I don't want to show. But now I guess it's just when you start to do, I guess, consider things that are considered better work that you're more proud of. That yes, you almost kind of become on this train or trend of making sure, the personal trend of making sure that everything you do is, in line with visually and morally and everything. So if you do something that's only as good as your last job, I mean, yes, there's going to be a lot of commercials I do that no one will ever know or see. Yeah. And so, I wouldn't, for commercials kind of that aren't things that we want people to see. They that doesn't matter, I guess, in the big picture of things. Yeah. But in terms of films, people, I feel like sometimes, and I might be wrong here, I have no idea, to be honest, is that you have a series of films that resonate with people and have done festival circuits and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, you just do something that's so left field or 180 degree that's not, that it might not be too bad once you've created enough work that's
consistent or like, consistent.
But then I think people will still be scratching their head a little bit and like,
Yeah, but I guess that also just kind of begs the question. Like, I think it's a really subjective thing. Do you know what I mean? I think that wanting a consistent amount of work in terms of I'm only doing intentional dramas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a completely subjective decision. It's what resonates with you. And then some DPs might want to be like, oh shit, I've never done a action movie before. I've never done a comedy before. I want to dive into that, because you just, no matter what you're doing, you're learning. Do you know what I mean?
Learning.
I think that there's I don't know this. I mean, I think this kind of opens the door to a whole other aspect of this conversation of like, does meaningful always have to be something that emotionally resonates with you, or can it be meaningful because shit, I've never done a motion control job before. Yeah, maybe this like Target commercial isn't going to be the most interesting thing in the world, but I get to play with a fucking techno dolly for 3 days. Like that's got to count for something, you know?
Oh no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think commercial. Yeah, I agree. Like not everything will have that, you know, the same ethical spice on it.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's more commercials for me, like, and music videos, I think it matters to me. But commercials, maybe less so. I don't.
Yeah.
I love to play with toys and try different things, meet different people. And
can you do me a favor next time you get like hit up by like Rubber Band or cool directors that you're doing music video shit with, and like you're not available? Can you be like, I know this guy.
I've definitely
he lives in Toronto. Because I swear to God, it's like I can't. All I want to shoot are music videos or weird art or short films. Like that shit is like it's so much fun. Do you know what I mean?
It is a lot of fun, yeah.
And I think that there's just like not only is there room for kind of like a bit of visual flex, but I think that you totally get to kind of you just get to experience something kind of like different. You get to mess around. You get to like, shit, you know what? I'm going to try a different set of lenses. I'm going to try 16 instead of 35. You know what I mean? And I think there's something like, I don't know, like, do you find that you're getting kind of hit up for a lot of stuff like that, or that it's,
I feel like it's for some reason, I don't know what, I guess when you put out the work that you like or you're proud of, it starts to kind of, like similar kind of things trickle in and
it's just, I find it's like a weird thing because it's like, what happens when it doesn't? Do you know what I mean? Like I remember in my head, like I shot 2 music videos with Emily Kaibach. The first one was, you know, for a Montreal band. The second one's for another Montreal band. But in my head, the second one was like, you know, it was for a more established band. Emily was now, you know, she had done the Grimes thing, and her and Evan were kind of like shooting shit together all the time. And she literally was just like, I think you should do it because it's going to be black and white and film. And I just feel like you have a lot of experience lighting. So I think it'll be a good fit. And like Evan donated his 435 and he came out and like was a loader on the music video. And I remember at this point, this was like, you know, I was like 32 and he was like 22 or something. And I was like, dude, you have the career I wish I had, just like the folks you're working with. But in my head, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this music video with Emily. And then that's it, man. Doors are going to open. I'm going to be working with like, you know, A.G. Rojas or Abtine by Gary or like whatever, you know, Vincent Haycock, like all the dudes that were kind of basically kind of recreating that renaissance of music videos in like the early 2010s, you know? And it didn't happen. And it was like, I was bummed, but I was just kind of like, oh, but why not? You know, and you start to kind of like think that it's like you, and I'm like, fuck, maybe I'm just not good at what I do. You know,
no, you're definitely.
I don't know.
But I same thing for me. I'm just people. I think similar with you. You know, I had a lot of long form work for many years. Yeah. I guess I started in that, and then all my short form work back before I did my long form work definitely was not in the realm of things that, I mean, people are so many talented people out there right now. It's incredible what people are making. So but I didn't have any short form work that I was proud of, that I wanted to, you know, but then somehow I was lucky to acquire a bit more at a time. I think it was a lot of it had to do with having shot Beyond the Black Rainbow. I was very lucky to have shot that because a lot of people, you know, they like it and they want to give me a chance. So
and I think what's nice about it too is, I mean, it's like, you know, obviously from an overall aesthetic standpoint, it's a super cohesive movie, but you can look at any shot, any frame, and you feel the hand of a director and you feel the hand of a cinematographer. Like there's just a vibe to it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, you know, I remember referencing frames from that movie before I even knew you or knew that you shot it for like music video stuff or short form stuff. Do you know what I mean? Just because, you know, and I think there's something nice about when you work on something like that, you know, can translate to other work that maybe isn't always necessarily in the same vein. Doesn't need to be a feature. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, no, for sure.
Like that must have, yeah. I mean, opened a lot of doors in a bunch of different kind of areas for you. Yeah.
It opened a lot of doors where, again, I just started to learn. I mean, do a lot of just random projects, but learn a lot. But yeah, now it's 15 minutes left, everyone.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, shoot. Okay. So do you want to answer a few more questions, or was there?
Yeah. No, dude, you find one that's good for you, man, and we could dive in.
So representation for the first time. Those 0G scenes. If that's something that's your in that commercial.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can answer that one super quick. I mean, it was. I mean, yeah, it was. You know, there was no set when we did the 0G stuff. It was literally just white foam core with a wall that had a circle in it, and then post took care of the rest. And there was just, you know, a telehandler with you know, piece of truss and all the wire shit to kind of, you know, have the effects guys kind of do their thing, and she just kind of moved her arms like this, and boom, 0G.
And then I guess just to quickly answer the agency one. Yeah, like what was your experience?
Dude, I don't know, man. I just like, what is it kind of finding an agency? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I think there's an understanding that everyone, like a narrative, everyone kind of develops in their own head of what it means to get represented. In my head, I was like, well, this means I'm going to get work. This means I'm going to have doors open to me that would never have been open before. And to a certain extent, I think that's true.
Yeah.
I also think that you can't discount your own ability to just fucking hustle. Do you know what I mean? And I think that the more often than not, the times that I think projected what I would hope happen with having what I thought was like the right agent, I would more often than not kind of end up being a little bit disappointed. Do you know what I mean? And kind of setting myself up for a situation that maybe just wasn't tenable. And so I think at this point now, I'm still learning. I literally feel like I do not know how to choose an agent. I don't know what it means to do it right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, good.
Yeah. But it's like, I swear to God, it's like every DP friend of mine that I have this conversation with. Yeah, I'm with this agency now. How's it working for you? I don't know, man. It's just like, I think honestly, a lot of it comes down to just personality and who you get along well with as a person, you know?
I think that's one of the main things. And
yeah,
you know, similar tastes, if, you know, and yeah, getting along. Because if you don't get along, then, well, what's the point in that relationship?
Yeah, no, for sure.
There's some other. I had a few other quick questions here. From me. So, in terms of, I feel like it's really important to address mentorship programs right now.
Yeah.
And for, you know, marginalized creatives and communities, and I feel like we should discuss it. And I know you just a few days ago you told me about this really amazing initiative that you have.
Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, hopefully this kind of initiative spreads across the world. And right now, so if you can just explain that'd be great. If you
no, for sure. No, thank you for bringing it up, because I think that I think back to one of the very first things we spoke about as this started was, you know, how the definition of meaningful, I think, can and should be a little bit different now than it was before. You know, I generally think that there's, you know, for better or for worse, the lack of work that was caused by the pandemic has created, I think, an emotional space for, you know, the folks who are lucky to not be derailed by that pandemic to maybe engage with maybe aspects of how they move through the world and the impacts they make in the world in a little bit more of a meaningful way. And, you know, obviously the CSC has been really kind of diving headlong into, I think, addressing just kind of institutional bias that I think runs rampant in our industry, and how you actually create more diversity and representation on set. And it was great during the CSC panel a couple weeks ago to listen to Norm talk about his experience on The Body Remembers and wanting to make sure that when you're making a film, it's not just about creating a product, it's about making, and not just about creating a product and making something that's meaningful to the people doing it, but I think also kind of giving back a little bit, you know? And I think just to speak to that specifically, just with all of the shit that's kind of been going on, I think just surrounding, I think kind of, you know, anti-Black racism in the States and in Canada, and just Indigenous rights in the States and Canada. And, you know, I've just been talking to a lot of friends about how you can make an impact, how you can make a change, and what it means to do so with the intention of longevity. And you kind of realize, you know, just even through doing like the minimal amount of kind of like research, that there's a lot of different options beyond just educating yourself, you know? And I think that one thing that really stood out to me was this idea of like resource movement, and, you know, having people that have access to wealth and class privilege, using that access to move funds where there's a lot of money to places that maybe don't have as much money. And I think, you know, I've been basically trying to, you know, organizing this with Catherine Lutz and Jordan Oram and Stuart Campbell and Vinit Borsan, and, you know, they've all, you know, basically, you know, we've all been basically trying to like think how you address this, this kind of head on right now. And, you know, in my head, I was like, well, you know, if you can use this access, this idea of resource movement, and, you know, DPs work on a lot of jobs that have access to a lot of money, what could it look like to collectively mobilize as a community and make a pledge to basically, you know, want to maybe like donate a small percentage of your paycheck that on an individual level doesn't really affect you, but cumulatively actually makes an impact. And what does it look like if you start to, you know, call in the collaboration of the agencies, and what happens if this template works and you kick it over to the commercial directors and to the commercial production companies. And what was great about talking to Catherine, Jordan, Stuart, and Vinny about this was all of them were like, imagine if this funding model was used for outreach, mentorship, and education. Imagine what you could do. Imagine that the new norm of being on a film set as a DP or whoever means that you're teaching someone that might not be actually represented in the film industry, maybe especially in Toronto, you know? And I think that listening to how you spoke about your experience on The Body Remembers, it was very inspiring to realize that what you can do as a collective group of individuals can make a massive, massive impact. Do you know what I mean? And I think that kind of really focusing on being aware of this right now and trying to actually instigate some sort of like change, you know what I mean? I think is something that, yeah, I beg your pardon, sorry?
Sustainable change.
Yes. Sure. Yeah, no, exactly. You know, and I mean, I'd love to hear more about your experience on The Body Remembers with that, you know, and what it was like to kind of.
I think I know we're probably, it's just because it's, I'm not sure how much time we have left, because I know we're going to get bumped soon. So I'm not sure if we talk about, all I can say that right now, just quickly, is that it was a beautiful experience because, you know, every head of department had their own 10 minutes left. It was a very amazing experience because I not only as a mentor, well, first of all, every head of department had a mentee of Indigenous background and youth, right? So we were able to learn from each other. It wasn't like top-down approach. It was very, very equal. And that I wanted to make sure that, and other departments like production design was making sure that all their choices were the appropriate choices for this film, because it's a very sensitive topic. And just to make sure that there's so many levels of mentorship. It's not just, you know, I'm a teacher, because I learned that, and making sure there's there's an orientation program at the beginning of before the shoot during prep
Yeah.
that everyone had to attend, and and learn about unconscious bias, and we all had to sit. And this is literally just one workshop for 3 or 4 hours, but
Yeah.
literally this has to keep going basically forever. So that it's kind of like you don't want to just learn it a little bit and then just forget about it. It's not about that. It's about
Yeah.
keeping it going, and the opportunities. It's interesting. I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
Chinese born Canadian. My parents from Hong Kong, but born in Canada. Is the biases? There's definitely biases, and I've gained. I have privilege as an Asian Canadian, and I think a lot of it attributes to my privilege as a male.
Yeah.
And I I have so many amazing collaborators and friends and partners who a partner right now.
Yeah.
Partner that there's so many amazing perspectives from people, and to drown out perspectives is just wrong. I mean, there's so many amazing stories to be told, and so much talent that if it's not someone who needs to tell stories, talent that can help tell stories. It doesn't just have to be from one perspective. So it's a very interesting topic, and it'll take a lot longer than what we had left, but it's just I was really, really happy to be a part of that film, and the mentorship program was literally next level. Like I think in the next film I'm going to do will also have a mentorship program.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's all I can say for now.
No, for sure. But I just think it's a great point. If it's something that's on everyone's mind, and you can kind of do some organizing to make this just a normal part of what production looks like in the future. I think you just add another layer of importance to what meaningful can be defined as.
Something to think about too is like, yes, there's going to be a lot of resistance, and we need to fight that, because as there's a lot of people who are at some point in life, time is linear.
Yeah.
There's a generation of filmmakers and crew that will not be working, retiring, or there's a new generation. We need to make sure that it's the next generation has equal or even more opportunity to make sure that they're seen and her voices are heard. So anyways, it's like I feel like the resistance, people should realize that they're not going to be there forever. And as much as we appreciate and respect their work and talent, we need to make sure that we foster the next generation. Yeah,
for sure. I feel also, every DP I know, myself included, has been on the receiving end of some sort of mentorship at some point. And it's been literally the most beneficial aspect of learning, you know what I mean? In terms of where you can take your career, how you can shape it, where it can go. And I definitely think that, wanting to kind of, I think, pay that forward back, whatever you would call it, to whoever might be looking for a little bit of guidance, I think is, probably as beneficial for yourself as it is for the person that you're doing it with,
Well, that's but I'm not sure. I think we're almost there, but I want to, I guess, between both of us and the CSC, thank everyone.
Yeah, no, this was, I don't know. I can't tell if this was interesting or, I was interested. I think it was like,
very interesting. No.
I wish you were in Toronto so we could just go to the park and drink a beer and just keep talking. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I guess I hope it was interesting for people. I know we didn't really get into specifics about technical stuff, but it was definitely fun to talk about, Yeah.
And if anyone, please don't be shy if contacting Bobby or I'm very happy to answer questions. And
if there's specific stuff, just honestly shoot me an email with as many questions as you want, or we can hop on the phone and kind of, have a long, boring conversation. I think also next week is Matt Lloyd and Maya Bankovic.
Oh, amazing.
Talking about director-DP relationships. And just really, really quickly, I need to bring this up. So Matt Lloyd was one of those dudes when I was like 28, 29, who was like, he was just creating work that for me was like the pinnacle. I was like, this is what I need to strive for. Like that Flying Lotus video he did. The health video he did for We Are Water with Eric Wareheim. If you haven't seen it, just Google health, We Are Water, Eric Wareheim. It's the most fucked up video in the world. It's the sickest thing. Anyway, so I'm super. I didn't know Matt was doing this next week, and I've never met the guy before, but I mean, his work is just absolutely stellar. You know,
he's exploded.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Is he Vancouver also, or?
I'm not sure. I know he shot. I think he shot Deadpool in Vancouver.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. Yeah.
Sick.
I just feel like because I know are they looking for because there's another cook at BSC.
Oh yeah. Like 2 o'clock.
I just want to make sure we're not.
No.
We're not,
No, dude, this was a lot of fun, man. I really it was nice to do it. I really hope we can meet in person at some point in the near future.
After this pandemic.
Yeah.
We definitely will.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. But yeah, thanks for your time, and
thank you.
I hope this wasn't too boring for everyone.
Yeah, like we find out that no one watched this.
Yeah, you're just like everyone just kind of checked out, right? So,
well, thank you, and we'll let's just keep chatting, anyways.
Yeah, no, for sure. When the borders open, come to Toronto for a visit, or I'll come to New York or something.
Come to New York.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, nice seeing you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Later. Thanks.
Bye.